It's my journey, it's your journey. You need my help and I need yours. 'Cause we are...
Witnesses of Christ in China, the courage of Saint Augustine Zhao Rong and friends. In the hidden valleys and bustling cities of 19th century China, faith lived quietly, then, suddenly, defiantly. It was an era marked by suspicion and suffering, when to confess Christ as Lord meant risking everything: family, home, and even life itself. Standing amid this crucible was Saint Augustine Zhao Rong and a resolute company of believers, men and women who wrote their witness not with ink, but with devotion and sacrifice. Their courage did not blaze only in some distant past. It whispers today, calling us deeper into the mystery of Christ's love, a love victorious even in the shadow of death. At Journeys of Faith, we are devoted to making the lives of the saints not just tales from history, but living encounters with God's providence. The story of Saint Augustine Zhao Rong and companions offers us precisely such an encounter, a witness of Catholic faith lived under persecution, steadfast in hope, and luminous in charity. Their journey, from suspicion to conversion, from service to martyrdom, invites us to reflect on our own path and challenges us to bear Christ's light in our lives, wherever we may be. Walk with us as we enter this powerful narrative, rediscovering not only a moment of suffering, but the extraordinary faith that flourished in its midst. Let the legacy of Saint Augustine Zhao Rong and his companions spark the flame of courage in your own journey toward Christ. For their story is a summons to stand firm for the gospel, to trust in grace, and to live as witnesses, no matter the cost. Who was Saint Augustine Zhao Rong? Saint Augustine Zhao Rong's story bursts from the pages of China's Catholic history, with a mix of suspense, struggle, and grace, a tale that inspires both awe and reverence. Born into a China racked by political upheaval and suspicion toward Christians, Zhao Rong began his journey not as a follower of Christ, but as a Chinese soldier. He was assigned the unthinkable, to escort a French missionary, Father Martinus Moai, on the long march to his execution. This moment became the crack in Augustine's armor. Witnessing the steadfast faith, forgiveness, and courage of the condemned priest, Zhao Rong was thunderstruck by the power of conviction, rooted in something greater than fear or duty. The seeds of faith began to grow in his heart. Eventually, he made the radical choice to seek baptism, a decision that would transform him from a persecutor into a defender of the faith. Zhao Rong embraced his new life with urgency, eventually discerning a call to the priesthood, in a country where simply professing Christ could mean death. He stood as a shepherd to the persecuted, baptizing, teaching, and encouraging the hidden church. His spiritual courage placed him directly in the sights of those who wished to extinguish Christianity from Chinese lands. Arrested for his ministry, Augustine faced torture and imprisonment with a steadfastness that echoes through the legacy of the martyrs. In 1815, he was executed for holding fast to the name of Jesus, sealing his witness with his own blood. Saint Augustine Zhao Rong's legacy is tangled with the stories of dozens of other companions, laypeople, catechists, priests, and even children, martyred for the faith across the vast sweep of China's provinces. Together they form a beacon, ordinary people caught up in extraordinary circumstances, showing us what it means to say yes to Christ, no matter the cost. His life reminds us that grace can break through even the hardest of circumstances, igniting new hope in the most unlikely hearts. Deepen your journey of faith. Experience the legacies of Saint Augustine Zhao Rong and companions, ready to bring the radiant witness of Saint Augustine Zhao Rong and companions into your everyday life. At Journeys of Faith, we invite you to go beyond reading their inspiring story. Embrace it, share it, and celebrate it in your own walk with Christ. Strengthen your devotion with resources crafted to lead you, your family, and your parish closer to Jesus and His Church. Explore our curated books and DVDs on the lives of the saints and courageous witnesses, like St. Augustine Zhao Rong and companions. Find meaningful sacramentals, medals, prayer cards, rosaries, and statues to foster daily prayer and remind you of the saint's steadfast love for Christ. Download exclusive audio and digital content for reflection, catechesis, and spiritual growth on the go. Nourish your soul and your ministry with resources designed for group study, parish evangelization, or family devotion. Connect with a supportive Catholic community that encourages your faith journey and accompanies you in prayer. Let Journeys of Faith walk beside you. Discover our full range of Catholic media and devotional goods at our online store, and draw strength from the heroic faith of the saints today and every day. From soldier to priest, the conversion of Zhao Rong. Augustine Zhao Rong's journey begins not in the quietude of a monastery or in the humble pews of a parish, but amid the bustle and rigor of the imperial army. A Chinese soldier in the early 19th century, Zhao Rong lived in a nation caught in the throes of social transformation, where Christians often faced suspicion, misunderstanding, and outright persecution. As an imperial guard, Zhao Rong's duty was to escort prisoners, many of whom were Catholics, including bishops and priests, bound for trial and, many times, martyrdom. It was on one such mission that the seeds of faith were first sown. Encountering the indomitable spirit and peace of the holy men he guarded, especially the French bishop Louis Gabriel Tarin Dufresne, Zhao Rong was moved to a profound change of heart. He began to question the meaning of the sacrifice and faith he witnessed, the serene resolve of these Christians as they faced suffering. Bishop Dufresne's calm witness and unwavering devotion planted in Zhao Rong a desire for something greater than the security promised by his military rank. The transformation did not happen overnight, but soon Augustine Zhao Rong asked to be baptized. His conversion was radical. Not only did he turn away from his former life, but he asked to follow Christ as a priest, longing to serve and strengthen the very church he once saw persecuted. Baptized and ordained, Zhao Rong chose the way of self-giving, knowing full well the risks and dangers of serving China's underground Catholic community. His journey from soldier to shepherd was marked by humility and courage, a living testimony to the power of grace at work within even the most unlikely of souls. This courageous decision set Zhao Rong down a path of spiritual fatherhood amid adversity, illustrating how the love of Christ can penetrate the hardest opposition and transform not only individuals, but the very fabric of a suffering people. The historical context of Christianity in China. The roots of Christianity in China reach back to times of great upheaval, hope, and resilience. As early as the 7th century, Christian missionaries, most notably the Nestorians, made the long trek east along the Silk Road, sowing seeds of the gospel amidst a landscape that teemed with dynasties, philosophies, and spiritual traditions. While Christian communities sometimes found favor, more often, they navigated a precarious existence under the watchful eyes of emperors, wary of foreign influences. Centuries later, at the dawn of the modern missionary era, waves of Catholic missionaries, Jesuits, Franciscans, Dominicans, and others, arrived in the Middle Kingdom with fresh zeal. Men like Matteo Ricci learned the language, adopted local customs, and patiently built bridges with emperors and intellectuals, sharing the good news in a spirit of dialogue and respect. Christianity's witness quietly grew, with Chinese converts learning that following Christ could mean a sharp break with family and tradition, and sometimes even danger. By the 18th and 19th centuries, amid rising suspicion of foreign religions, the Church in China found itself engulfed in tremendous trial. New converts like Augustine Zhao Rong, a Chinese soldier turned priest, emerged as flashes of Christ's presence in a world threatened by change, in the shadow of imperial decrees. These men and women clung to their faith despite persecution, imprisonment, and even martyrdom. These chapters were marked by courage and fidelity, embodying the very heart of the Christian message. to bear witness to Christ, whatever the cost. Waves of persecution against Chinese Christians. The story of St. Augustine, Zhao Rong, and companions unfolds against a backdrop of tumult and danger. A China shaken by the rising tides of persecution against Christians in the late 18th and 19th centuries. Christianity had arrived centuries earlier, sparking both curiosity and suspicion from imperial authorities wary of outside influences. For ordinary Catholics, faith in Jesus meant risking reputation, safety, and, ultimately, life itself. In the Qing dynasty, edicts explicitly condemned the practice of Christianity, branding it a threat to traditional values and imperial authority. Converts and missionaries alike faced relentless surveillance. The emperor's orders demanded renunciation of the faith, destruction of sacred texts and icons, and betrayal of fellow believers. Refusal often led to brutal interrogations, imprisonment, and torture. Even those who secretly gathered in humble candlelit homes, singing psalms in whispers and clutching rosaries close, were not immune to betrayal by neighbors or even family. Yet, amid this climate of fear, the faith blossomed. The blood of martyrs watered the seeds of the gospel. Chinese laity, catechists, priests, and foreign missionaries stepped forward, their courage shining through the darkness. For every crackdown, Christians responded with deeper prayer, tighter community bonds, and a willingness to carry the cross alongside Christ. Some, like Augustine Zhao Rong, a former soldier moved by the faithful witness of captives, chose to embrace the very faith he once was ordered to suppress, a decision that would cost him everything. The witness of Augustine Zhao Rong and his companions is a testament to Christ's promise. If they persecuted me, they will also persecute you. John 15:20. In the face of violence and hatred, their steadfast love and hope became a living gospel amid the storms. Their courage calls each of us to remember that the cross remains, not hidden, but lifted up, for all to see, even in the darkest of times. The 120 Martyrs of China, a united witness. In the tapestry of faith, the story of the 120 Martyrs of China stands out as a radiant witness to the power of conviction and the universality of the gospel. These men, women and children, priests and laity alike, came from diverse backgrounds, cultures, and even continents. Yet they were united by one unwavering hope: to follow Christ, even when it meant carrying the cross all the way to martyrdom. The soil of China became a silent sanctuary, consecrated by the blood of these courageous souls between the 17th and 20th centuries. Missionaries from distant lands journeyed with trembling hearts, called by the Lord to sow seeds of faith in unfamiliar ground. Alongside them were Chinese converts, farmers, teachers, catechists, parents, and even children whose embrace of the Catholic faith often placed them in the path of misunderstanding, persecution, and violence. These companions lived out Christ's own words. Greater love has no one than this, to lay down one's life for one's friends. John 15:13. Though their stories are as varied as the colors of a prayerful procession, what binds the 120 martyrs of China together is their shared fidelity to Christ and his church. Some were tortured or exiled, others faced execution with prayers on their lips. Yet, each one became a living testament to the transforming love of Jesus. A love that knows no borders, speaks every language, and outlasts every trial. By their sacrifice, the church in China was not destroyed, but became ever more alive, fertilized by the faith and hope of those willing to give all for their Savior. This communion of martyrs reminds us that the call to holiness and witness is not reserved for a select few, but is the task of the entire people of God, wherever they are planted. Their feast, celebrated on July 9th, resounds as a song of courage and consolation. A reminder that, even in the darkest of times, the light of Christ shines undimmed through the faithfulness of his witnesses. Courage under trial, stories of faithful martyrs. The soil of China has long been sanctified by the silent footsteps of missionaries, and the quiet, unwavering devotion of its Christian faithful. Though the world may not always remember their names, the martyrs known as Saint Augustine, Zhao Rong, and companions stand as enduring witnesses to a love that could not be silenced by threat or suffering. Augustine Zhao Rong himself began not as a disciple of Christ, but as a soldier ordered to escort a missionary priest, only to be won over by the priest's compassion, patience, and trust in God. Drawn into the heart of the gospel, Zhao Rong was baptized, ordained a priest, and soon joined those he once guarded. In a time when confessing Christ in China meant arrest, torture, or death, Zhao Rong chose fidelity to his newfound Lord over safety. His arrest and martyrdom were acts of courage that echoed the words of the apostles. We must obey God rather than men. Yet Zhao Rong's story is only one thread in the tapestry of witness woven by a diverse company of Chinese laity and clergy. Men, women, and even children, like 14-year-old Anna Wang, who withstood threats and violence to refuse apostasy, choosing Christ over life itself. Families, catechists, and bishops faced interrogations, humiliation, and excruciating deaths simply because they belonged to Christ and his church. These stories are not relics locked in history. They are vibrant reminders to today's believers of what it means to place one's hope in the Lord, even when every earthly assurance fails. For those who have never faced such open persecution, the sacrifices of the martyrs may feel impossibly distant, and yet their courage calls out. To the soul longing for meaning, to the heart tempted to compromise, to the mind uncertain when truth becomes costly. Their testimony is this: faith lived boldly, rooted in love for Jesus, is always fertile ground for miracles, even in the darkest places. The Boxer Rebellion and its impact on the Church. It was a dark and turbulent hour for Christianity in China, at the dawn of the 20th century. The Boxer Rebellion, which erupted in 1900, unleashed a torrent of violence driven by suspicion, fear, and the determination to root out foreign influences. At its core, the movement, known as the Righteous and Harmonious Fists, Ren saw the presence of Christian missionaries and converts as a threat to China's ancient traditions and sovereignty. For Catholic faithful, the Boxer Rebellion was a crucible of faith. Churches were burned, mission stations destroyed, and thousands, both European missionaries and Chinese converts, were targeted. In the face of this ferocity, entire communities gathered behind church walls, clutching rosaries, whispering prayers, and proclaiming the creed with trembling lips while enemies circled outside. In these trials, the witness of the saints shone forth with extraordinary clarity. The martyrs we now honor, as Saint Augustine Zhao Rong and companions, stood among these embattled believers. They embodied the call of Christ. Whoever loses his life for my sake will find it. Some, like Saint Augustine Zhao Rong, were converts who risked everything, even their own lives, to cling to the faith they had freely chosen. Others were catechists, lay people, or families who would not renounce their baptismal promises even as threats became deadly. The impact of the Boxer Rebellion on the Church was twofold. Outwardly, it tried to erase the growing Catholic presence, cutting down the visible signs of faith. Inwardly, however, it purified and strengthened the Church as countless witnesses, young and old, sealed their testimony with the ultimate sacrifice. Their courage resounds through history, reminding us that true faith is never extinguished by earthly power. Instead, it glows still more brightly in the darkness, beckoning generations of believers to stand firm with Christ, whatever the cost. Native Chinese Catholics and missionary witness. The story of Saint Augustine Zhao Rong and companions unfolds against the vibrant, often turbulent backdrop of Catholic faith taking root in China. Long before Augustine Zhao Rong's conversion, Catholic missionaries, Jesuits, Dominicans, Franciscans, and others journeyed across continents, learning the language and culture, striving to plant the seeds of the gospel in Chinese soil. They arrived not as conquerors but as humble servants, burning with a conviction that Christ's love transcends every border. Yet the heart of this story lies not only with foreign missionaries, but also with the remarkable Chinese men and women who, having encountered Christ, embraced the faith with a courage that inspires us still. Augustine Zhao Rong, once a soldier in the imperial army, tasked with escorting a captured missionary, heard the good news along the way. Touched by the witness and prayer of the missionary prisoner, Augustine was baptized, exchanging a life of service to the emperor for one devoted to Christ, even as persecution loomed. His conversion marks a crucial moment. The faith was no longer a foreign import, but a living reality rooted in Chinese hearts. Augustine, and many like him, stepped forward as catechists, priests, and lay leaders, risking and ultimately surrendering their freedom and lives for the sake of Jesus. Their witness is woven together with that of the missionaries, forming a tapestry of faith forged through shared suffering, prayer, and hope. Communities blossomed despite harsh edicts and waves of violence. In secret, the faith passed from parent to child, lay catechists teaching prayers, missionaries celebrating the sacraments at hidden altars. Each convert, each martyr, contributed to a legacy that neither walls nor imperial decrees could crush. Their stories bear witness not only to human bravery, but to the enduring, transforming presence of Christ in every land. What led to the arrest and death of Zhao Rong? The story of Saint Augustine Zhao Rong and companions unfolds against the backdrop of one of the most turbulent eras in Chinese history. A time marked by suspicion, misunderstanding, and intense persecution of Christians. Zhao Rong's path to martyrdom began not as a disciple, but as a soldier. In the late 18th century, during the Qing dynasty, Zhao Rong was assigned to escort a French missionary, Bishop Louis Gabriel de Fraisse, to his execution. The bishop's serenity, faith, and forgiveness in the face of death moved Zhao Rong deeply, planting the seeds of a faith he could not ignore. Overcome by grace, Zhao Rong embraced Christ. He sought baptism, taking the name Augustine, and eventually became a priest himself. For converts like him, this decision was not merely countercultural, it was treacherous. In those years, the government viewed the growth of Catholicism as a threat to stability, fearing foreign influence and subversion. Christianity was banned, churches were destroyed, and priests were forced into hiding. Zhao Rong chose to serve anyway, secretly ministering to the small but resilient flock of believers. His priesthood brought him into the heart of the storm. In 1815, Zhao Rong was discovered and arrested, not simply for his beliefs, but for his unwavering commitment to Jesus and his people.
It's your journey, but we won't make the trip alone, 'cause we know God will lead us home. It's our journey of faith, it's our